Welcome to another edition of the Joe Six-Pack Podcast. On a Tuesday night, we call these special editions, because they're editions where we're talking to people out in the real racing world as well as the sim world. Probably be back on tomorrow night. Actually, tomorrow night we will be back on. We have a couple of guys that are doing a promotion the end of the month called the 24 Beers of Daytona. It's 24 hours, and you must consume, if you're a two-man team, 288 ounces of beer between the two of yous, and take photographs of those beer cans so you can get in on the prizes. And one of them is he's starting this year as a rear tire changer for Zane Smith in the truck series, so that's going to be kind of cool to have him on. Joe Six-Pack Podcast is live on Twitch TV right now, and for later download on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Anchor, Shoutcast, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, Amazon, and also you can watch it on YouTube. And then that all happens later on tonight and tomorrow, because Twitch is free, but they only hold on to your videos for 2 weeks. So we send them to all these other fantastic places where they can live in perpetuity forever. You can always catch up. And we'll be uploading those to Anchor tomorrow morning. Special guest tonight is Rob Lowell. He's been a racing fan since 9 years of age. He's one of the long-term Joe Six-Pack drivers. I think he joined us, I think it was season 1. Check in with him and see on that. And he's been around racing since 9 years old, and he's a mechanic with the G Stone Racing Team. Pretty soon heading down to Florida for some spring racing. And they got a great picture here of their garage with 3 of the modifieds up on stilts, getting some work done on them. And I got to say, that's a pretty sharp-looking garage there. Rob, how you doing?
Greg, how are you tonight?
I am doing well. Not as good as you guys did in our race last night, because I got wrecked out twice, and instead of holding grudges, which I don't do, but not wanting to wreck when I had no more quick fixes left after lap 30, I just decided to park it and then come back in and watch the race, and I'm glad I did, because I caught the finish. You guys were going at it for the last 15 laps there, but there was like 4 of yous, and even I wondered, like the broadcaster did, how Brad Yankman came out of nowhere, and would he finish second? I think he finished second, didn't he?
Second, yeah.
Yeah,
Brad.
Out of nowhere.
Brad was the Kevin Harvick last night. Where'd he come from?
Yeah. And you had a heck of a race, too. You and the number 18, McCarty, were going at it for quite a while there for a good 7 or 8 laps near the end, along with Dave Lamaga.
Yeah. Dave and I had a long battle. The middle stint there after the comp caution.
Yeah.
We were tooth and nail. Tuescu was in there. I was at a little bit of disadvantage. They had the draft, and I'd get by or get even with Dave, and then they'd line up and get back by me in the straightaways, and it was a great race.
Yeah, it was really
I feel
good.
like I gave that one away last night. A couple different ways.
Yeah, you were saying that before we went on.
What's that?
I said we were talking about that before we went live.
Yeah, I should have just probably rode behind Levi there till 10 to go and forced him to use his stuff up, and then made my move. But
right,
I was so good rolling the bottom. I felt like my car was way faster on the bottom.
Yep.
And during the week I practiced. I had probably 2 hours of practicing throughout the week.
Mm-hmm.
My teammate Johnny Barker and I, we spent about 2 hours, I think, Thursday afternoon in there.
Well, that's
and we tried the top, we tried the bottom, and about halfway through practice, I found what I felt was the way to drive the track, and I stuck with it last night.
Yeah.
And it worked out. It was by far my best finish. I feel like I'm getting iRacing figured out, at least in these next-gen cars. And I'm actually praying now that they don't make a switch on them, because I think I figured out how to save tires pretty good.
Yeah, that's one of those sneaky tracks. It's kind of like, what's another one we race on? Kentucky, where you don't think you're blowing through tires, and then all of a sudden the tires are gone. Because Miami's a pretty smooth riding track, but what I noticed, I probably did an hour and a half, 2 hours of practice, was the tires, they seem to wear out pretty quick if you're pushing that low line a little bit too much.
Yeah, so I found just the opposite. we did several long runs on our practice day, and I'd run the top for 20 laps, and then I'd go to the bottom. I'd be 3 to 4 tenths faster. And Johnny and I tried it both ways. He'd run the top, I'd run the top, and at the end of a 30-lap stint, I was consistently faster rolling the bottom the whole session. So
wow,
I think it comes down to just how you race it.
True.
Levi was running, the top one end, the bottom the other end. Dave was running top and bottom. I don't know if there's any right or wrong. It's just what you feel, what you can do and save your tires.
Yeah, because there's a lot of grooves you can run on that track.
Yeah, it's just like Kentucky. So Kentucky is kind of where I figured out. It was the first race back with you guys.
Yeah.
I took the summer off. I missed all of season 2 and half season 3 because it was race season for us.
Got it.
And I literally go to work Friday mornings, work for G Aviation. I'm a production supervisor for them in Rutland, Vermont. I leave my house at 4 o'clock Friday morning, and I don't get back home till 2 or 3 o'clock Sunday morning because we go racing Friday night.
Oh, wow.
I stay in the motorhome back of the shop in Middlebury.
Yep.
Get up 6:30 Saturday morning. We unload, get the cars turned around, and race Saturday night. So I just don't have time for iRacing from April to October.
I hear you. So where do you guys race when you're doing those weekends like that, when you're not in Florida?
So, Florida, we race an actual, it's an asphalt car. It's a super late model.
Okay.
Just like you can race on the sim. We race at New Smyrna Speedway. We have a brand new Fury car down there. We'll head down February 11th, and we'll race the 11th through the, maybe the 19th, I guess, down at New Smyrna for Speed Weeks. It's 9 nights of racing.
Wow.
But in the summertime up here, we race Friday nights this season. We're going to race at Mohawk International Raceway up in Hogansburg, New York.
Okay.
Both drivers that I work on their cars. It's a father-son combo.
Yeah.
Todd and Justin Stone. They both run the 358 modified division up there. And then Saturday nights we're racing at Devil's Bowl Speedway in West Haven, Vermont.
Oh, I love
and
that
those
track.
are actually 602 Sportsman cars because that's their headline division.
Yeah.
And Devil's Bowl has been my home track since I was 9 years old.
Yep.
And it's been Todd and his father Gardner's home track since the late 80s also.
No kidding.
That's home.
And
they switched to the 602 cars in 2013, and we raced asphalt. The track was asphalt then. We raced them on asphalt, won a couple championships.
Yep.
And they went back to dirt in 17. And we came back to Devil's Bowl last year full time.
Devil's Bowl was the only place in, I want to say it was summer 2019, where we could go and watch racing because Cuomo had the entire state of New York shut down. And my son Sam said, "Hey, let's go to Devil's Bowl." He goes, "Where is it?" He goes, "Vermont." I go, "Vermont?" And it turned out to be just a 2-hour drive. Basically, you turn right at Lake George, and then you turn left when you hit the Vermont border, and it's right there. So we went up there a number of times, and we had a good time up there. I think we went up 3 times that summer.
Yeah, so Devil's Bowl was not going to be our Saturday night home in 2020, but thanks to COVID, we were going to race Plattsburgh Airborne Speedway up in Plattsburgh, New York.
Yeah.
And then with COVID, like you say, New York was locked down tight, and we wanted to race, so we went back home to Devil's Bowl. And sometimes you don't know what you're missing until you go back.
Yeah, that's so true.
It's just home. It felt right.
Yeah.
It was Justin Stone's rookie season as Sportsman. He won Rookie of the Year there. Didn't win in 2020, but came close, had a couple seconds. And then this year, he ran full-time there again and had 4 wins. And we're positioned, I feel, to make a run at the championship with them in 2022.
Well, that's cool.
Except Dad's decided to run full-time now, and Dad's got 3 championships there. And so it'll be interesting. Father-son battling for points.
Yep. Excuse me. We got a house full of COVID here. Actually, it's been gone for a week, but the effects are still lingering. So it's been crazy. Now, there were some guys during COVID from Lebanon Valley and Malta that came out to Devil's Bowl, weren't there? Weren't there a few guys taking the trip across the border?
Yeah, there was a lot. Bobby Hackle raced full time.
Yep.
Demetrius Drelos, he
Yes.
actually won the championship last year in 2020.
Yep. Okay.
Marty Kelly the third came up and ran. He came back this year. Yeah, quite a few. And then, Mike and Elaine Bruno, who own the track, they saw a real good opportunity last year. They put up some big races in 2020, $10,000 to win, 100-lap races.
Wow.
And one night there was close to 200 modifieds in the pits between these
Oh my gosh.
limited sportsmen, the regular 62 sportsmen, and then the big block, small block challenge. Yeah, it was insane. And it continued this year, we had, in the 4 divisions, like 120 cars each week. So, that track's come a long ways. It was 2016. They had 4 cars in the headline division on the asphalt, which was the modifieds.
Oh, man.
And they went back to dirt, which Devil's Bowl was dirt.
Yep.
In the 70s and 80s, and they've turned that track around. They invested a lot of money. And, they deserve credit for what they did.
Oh, definitely. And when you hear the name Devil's Bowl, asphalt just kind of doesn't go with the name. Dirt track does.
Yeah, but I'll be honest with you. Some of the best races the American Canadian Tour has ever run, I feel, was at Devil's Bowl Speedway as far as competition.
Yeah.
Wayne Hellowell and Brian Hoare raced side by side at the end of a 150 lapper for probably 20 laps, so close that they melted the stickers off each other's cars from the exhaust.
That's crazy.
And it was a photo finish.
Wow. That's like
Hellowell won it. Brian thought he won it. But yeah, Devil's Bowl really raced well as an asphalt track.
Okay.
The problem is you're in a hard dirt country.
Yes. Yep.
We're not asphalt country.
Yep.
If you're over the Green Mountains on the other side of the state, yeah, Thunder Road is asphalt country.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that race reminded me of the modifieds up in New Hampshire 2 years ago. The feature race, there were 28 lead changes, and the 2 guys going at it, I think they changed the lead 6 times on 1 lap. It was crazy. That track is so perfect for modifieds. It was a lot of fun. And then we went to see the same thing over at Stafford in Connecticut this year, and that was a great little track, very well run. So let's get into your history here. How did you get involved in racing? What's the first time you went to a track, and what got you into racing?
So, I grew up 3 miles from Devil's Bowl Speedway.
That helps.
And they raced Sunday nights back then.
Yeah.
And I could lay in my bed on Sunday nights and hear the cars. When the yellow came out, they went back green. And I think I wore my father out about taking me to a race. So I was like 9 or so. He took me to a race, and I fell in love with it. And we went, a couple times a year.
Yeah.
Up until, I want to say the year I turned 14, I could get in the pits. That was the age to get in the pits in Vermont.
Okay.
And hometown racer, Gene Munger, the flying fireman, his father and my father were best friends. And I started going out to Gene's garage and, hanging around and learning what I could, and started going to the races with him. And I would change gears and, lug the gear oil bucket, and scrape mud, stuff like that. And
yep.
I did that, 4 or 5 years with him. And then in 95, I had a friend, her stepfather was a crew chief for Gardner and Todd Stone of the G-Stone Motors team. And we'd ride down to Malta every week together. And I was still helping Gene at the time, and I had no real reason to switch.
Yeah.
And then Gene and the car owner decided mid-season they were going to split. And the car owner brought in another racer who, it was fine, but it wasn't that family connection and stuff.
Right.
And I was going down a couple weeks with her still to, and hanging out to watch the races. And next thing you know, I'm scraping the mud on the G-Stone cars and helping them change gears. And
there you go.
Somehow I became a member of the team without even realizing it. And then in April of '96, I was up on a work night at the shop, and Todd approached me about going to work full time for him
Oh,
on the
that's
race
cool.
cars. So April '96, I became a full time race car crew guy.
Well, prior to that,
and
did
Go
you
ahead.
have any mechanical experience, or did you learn it all scraping mud to start?
I picked it up at the race track and in the shop.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool.
and they had my friend's stepfather had moved on. He had gone to work for Interstate Design, a company that did some work for GE Aviation design work. He was an engineer by trade. And they brought a new crew chief in, Jeff Carter. He was Dave Lape's crew chief for 20 years at Fonda Speedway. And
Excuse me.
they hired him to come over and be crew chief for G-Stones. And Jeff is the one that taught me everything I know about race cars.
That's cool. Now let's
Lots of nights. I was salary. We'd put in 70 hours a week. We raced 2 nights a week. We raced big block modifieds in Granby, Quebec on Fridays. We raced 258 mods at Devil's Bowl on Sundays. And every couple of weeks we go to Bear Ridge over in the west side of Vermont and race the 358 on a Saturday night. So
Wow, that's a busy schedule.
I just soaked up all the knowledge I could.
Yeah. Listen, jump back to the Flying Farmer. How did you know how he got that name, the Flying Farmer?
Yeah, so his family owned Munger Brothers Farm in Benson, Vermont.
Okay.
So someone along the way nicknamed him Flying Farmer.
And you said he had this pretty outrageous pulling tractor?
No, that's actually Gardner Stone. Todd's father has a.
Oh, okay.
It's a legendary tractor. Gardner's actually in the NTPA Hall of Fame for his accomplishments. I worked on that too.
And it had 12,000 horsepower between the 4 engines?
Yes, so it has 4 Lycoming T55 turbine jet engines going into a single gearbox, going through a single Rockwell rear end.
A single gearbox.
The
I know nothing about
the wheel speed
gearboxes.
is over 180 miles an hour on it.
Wow. I don't know anything about gearboxes, but when you tell me that there's 4 turbine engines going into one of anything, it sounds off the wall and just like way out there.
It's a custom built gearbox. The whole tractor's pretty insane.
And 100.
It's retired now, but it was built in '88 or '89. I can't remember which. It took him about a year to figure it out, and then it took the pulling world by storm. And he was still winning in the mid 2000s with it.
Wow.
Against 4 Aries engines on the limited modifieds, and he's kind of the one that gave the unlimited modifieds their moniker, which is run what you brung and hope you brung enough.
And you said that this thing did 180 something miles an hour?
The wheel speed was 180 miles an hour.
Oh, the wheel speed.
It
Okay.
probably doesn't get over 20 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour going down the track.
All right, I got you.
It runs off wheel spin. It just
All right.
lights the tires up, and
Oh,
yeah.
man. That's still fast.
You can go on YouTube and Google the General Stage 4 pulling tractor, and there's all kinds of videos out there of it.
Yeah. Have you been tracking your lug coin since you bought it last week?
Just when you put it up.
If you bought enough, you could probably have bought your place down on the ocean now. You're up 10.9% in 1 week.
So, yeah, hey, you know what? If I can support the league with it, and
Yeah. But
that's
crypto,
what it's all about.
crypto, it could turn around and be down 10.9% by tomorrow morning. So
Yeah, so
take advantage of it when you.
I'll tell you about my crypto. So I want to say 2010.
Uh-huh.
I was probably late at night surfing the internet, and this thing called Bitcoin was out there.
Yep.
And I bought like $10 worth as a joke.
Right.
And you store it on a crypto wallet on your hard drive.
Yep.
Well, that hard drive is in a dump somewhere because it was a Dell computer, and 4 or 5 years later, it got thrown away. And,
Oh, no.
you know, at that point, Bitcoin was still worthless. You know, it was not worth a whole lot. And I figured that, you know, probably a year ago, I sat down and figured out that $10, you know, at its highest point was worth about $2 million.
How many people have done that, though? I mean, I couldn't find any place to buy it. I had some guy, he messaged me, he goes, yeah, meet me behind Price Chopper in Saugerties, New York, and I'll sell you some Bitcoin. I'm like, yeah, right, dude. It was one of, you couldn't find it, and it was so strange. Then there was this other guy, he lost the code to his wallet, and he had something like $800,000 of Bitcoin, and you had 5 chances to reopen your wallet. And last I heard, he was on his 5th try trying to put everything back together, and if he can't open it, then the money just disappears. That's pretty crazy.
Yes, and here's the thing. I know what my wallet code is.
Yeah.
I just don't have the hard drive.
Ugh.
So, yeah, I mean, when I moved, I threw that computer away. It was out of date. It was, as far as I'm concerned, you know. And honestly, I didn't even think about the Bitcoin on it then. It wasn't worth nothing. So,
right. Yeah, it took a long time.
It was only 2 or 3 years later when it was skyrocketing, like, you know. And I'm not the only one that's had that stories, you know. There's probably hundreds of people that have done that.
Oh, sure.
If not thousands.
Yep. Oh, it's crazy. So, when did you get into iRacing?
October of 19, I guess it was.
COVID baby.
Actually, it was about. Actually, no, it was 18, I guess.
Oh, 18. Okay.
Yeah, it was 18.
Yeah.
Couple years before COVID, well, a year and a half before COVID really hit.
Got it.
I bought a HP Omni gaming computer and a Logitech G29 wheel, and I started racing. And I didn't research wheel settings. I didn't research anything. I just jumped into it.
Same here.
And that's not a good way to start.
No.
And then, you know, I fooled around for, you know, 2 or 3 months, and then we got ready to go racing and kind of forgot about it. And it really wasn't until last December, November, December of 2020 that I got back into it.
That's about the same
when the
time.
Dirt Modifieds came out, because
okay.
Everyone in my racing circle, well, not everyone, but a lot of people in my racing circle got on iRacing and do that. Mm-hmm. And then I found you guys, the Joe Six-Pack League, and I'm like, hey, I'll try this. And I really enjoy it. It's a good group of guys to work with, or race with. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've had to apologize a lot.
Same here.
I've felt like an idiot a lot for incidents on the track. I'm lucky guys like Al Reed and Dave LaMonga have a lot of patience and are, you know, good at giving constructive feedback.
Yeah, they are.
And I was really happy the last couple weeks to be able to run with those guys. And, you know, at the end of season 3, I kind of felt like I was starting to get there. I could qualify in the top 10. I could, you know, run in the top 5 a little bit. Still making some stupid mistakes. And then it just seemed to click all of a sudden. And I'll still make a stupid mistake. I know I will.
I make them all the time.
I did, you know, Sunday night. Last night, I like 5 to go. I got loose off 4, smacked the wall, and dinged up my right front fender a little bit more. And that's when I lost, you know, third and second and third. But it happens.
Oh, it does. Yeah. Yeah, so you got on iRacing about the same time we started the Joe Six-Pack thing. And we started out, it was just going to be once a month money races, because I didn't really want to do a league. I didn't think I'd have the time. So I'd schedule a race for, let's say, end of January, and then just have 3 practice races or 2 practice races just to drum up support for it beforehand. And then everybody said, let's make a league out of it. And then, here we are just like 15 months later. And we're having a good season this year. The racing it's been pretty top notch so far.
Yeah, and Daytona was good. A lot of great racing.
Yep.
It's Daytona, right?
Yeah.
You go to Daytona, I don't care what league you're in, you know it's going to be like. Well, it's not going to be like Talladega or Daytona ARCA series, official series, that kind of wreck fest. But you're racing that close together, you're going to have some incidents. And I actually felt like for a plate race, we had a pretty clean race at Daytona.
I think there was
compared to what it could be.
There was only, I think, 3 cautions, including the competition caution. We had I think there was a bunch of them in the beginning, and then we had the competition caution, and after that, I think it was pretty clean the rest of the race. That seemed to be the synopsis we had afterwards. And then
it definitely felt like the end of season 3 we were starting to go that route too. Of a lot of long green flag runs, and I honestly wish we could. I wish our race was a little bit longer. We could put a little more fuel load in, because I feel the tire wear is a great equalizer.
Yes, it is.
So.
And I was amazed the truck race last week at New Hampshire compared to our Cup race last year at New Hampshire was a disaster. But I think the truck race was a phenomenal race, and that was only 2 or 3 cautions there on what is not an easy track to drive.
Yeah, I wish we had one more. I ran probably 40 laps in the lucky dog position, just begging for a yellow, and it never came. But yeah, it's great racing. It really is.
Yeah. So when you got out of being a full-time mechanic, because you said you had to get a real job, tell me that story. How did that come about?
I got married, and we're going to raise a family. So, just because I wasn't full time on the car anymore didn't mean I missed any races or missed their work nights.
Right.
I'm on going into season 27, I think.
Wow.
With them. And so we raced dirt modifieds when I was in from 96 to 2000, and then 2000, then to 99, sorry. 2000, Todd decided he wanted to make a switch, and we went asphalt late model racing with the American Canadian Tour. And we did that for 2000, 2001, 2002, 3, and 04. So 5 seasons. And he decided going into the 04 seasons, let's buy a dirt car, another modified, and we'll race for fun at Devil's Bowl on our off weekends, because the ACT Tour didn't race every weekend. You raced, 10 or 12 races a year that season. Mm-hmm. So we had some off weekends, so we'd race Devil's Bowl. And about halfway through the season, the writing was on the wall. You could see it. You could see it in his eyes and his face. He was having fun in the dirt car. Yeah. And it wasn't through lack of results in our asphalt car. The ACT Tour had been around for 15 years with those late models at that point.
Yep.
And when we left and went back dirt racing, he was sitting 5th on the all-time win list in it. So, was very successful in it. Just wanted to go back dirt racing. And we went back dirt racing with the modifieds. We raced them back through to 2014, won 3 championships. And at the end of 14, he's like, okay, enough for the modifieds. We just won back-to-back championships. Actually, he won 2 back-to-back championships at Devil's Bowl and back-to-back at Airborne on the asphalt and the modified. So he won 4 championships in 3 years. And he decided he wanted to go back asphalt racing with a late model. This time we went to a pro stock with the Grand State Pro Stock Series. And we did that 15 and 16. And then 17, Plattsburgh went from asphalt to dirt. And raced there weekly for the dirt, still the asphalt car. And we did dirt and asphalt for the last 5 years. 2014, he bought a it's an IMCA modified, but they call them Florida modifieds down at New Smyrna. And he went down there for the World Series of Asphalt during Speed Weeks, and he won the championship for Speed Weeks in that car. Then he moved up to a pro late model for 4 seasons. Finished second in the points down there during Speed Weeks 2 of those years. And then we moved up to the super late model. I think this will be our 3rd season, but it's going to be only our 2nd Speed Weeks. We didn't go down last year because of COVID. Mm-hmm. So we've raced a ton of different types of cars, and we've raced some of the, most prestigious races on the East Coast.
That's really cool.
New Smyrna Speed Weeks.
Yep.
The States 200, Syracuse on the mile track with the modifieds, the Milk Bowl. He won the 2019 Motor Mountain Masters. That's a mouthful.
Yes,
at Jennerstown Speedway. That was a big $10,000 win race. It was broadcast live on Pit Road TV on Facebook. So I've been blessed. I've
Sounds like
got to do a lot of racing. I've been exposed to a lot of different types of cars. And more important than all that, I have another family. Todd and Justin and Gardner and their whole family, Todd's like a brother to me.
That's cool.
They are family. And some of my most cherished life lessons I've learned from Todd and Gardner. They've taught me, a lot about business, mm-hmm. about work ethic, treating people right.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's all about treating people right.
You look back at how we founded this country, and apprenticeships were so important. And one of the few places you can still find that today is at your local asphalt track. Because I remember going over to Lebanon Valley and I see these, we went there you start going every Saturday night for 4 or 5 years, and then you get a pit pass every now and then you see the kids when they're whatever the age is in New York to get into the pits, and you go back and you see them next year. And then all of a sudden they're not driving the track, but they might be driving the car, backing it off the trailer for the first time is probably a big hit for any 14-year-old kid. And then all of a sudden you see this kid is like, oh my gosh, that guy's actually racing. I remember when he was, like you said, scraping mud.
Yeah, and I'm worried for our sport.
Mm-hmm.
That generation, those kids now, there's not a huge interest in auto racing. And I'll give you an example. Last, April, Todd put up an ad on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
Our race team Facebook page, and he was looking for an individual to go to work in the race car shop, work in the race car shop Monday through Friday, go to the racetrack Friday night, Saturday night, work on the race cars, paid position, no takers. And it worked out good for my son, who was senior in high school.
Yeah.
No one took it in April and May. And, in the middle of May, Todd went to my son and said, hey, would you be interested, once, you're out of high school, come and work full time? And my son John said, yeah. And he worked out last summer in the race cars, through the fall, went racing for us every time he could. The off season, he's been working in the bed liner and wax undercoating part of the dealerships, just to stay busy. And he'll go back to the race car shop. Actually, he's back in it this week, putting bodies on the cars.
Ah, cool.
With Jeff, our crew chief. But my son's doing literally the same job I did at his age.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's kind of come full circle,
Yeah.
It's pretty cool, because my dad, after I started working for G Stones, my dad started going tractor pulling with Todd's father, Gardner. And my dad kind of became his crew chief and would travel all over the country tractor pulling.
Wow.
And so my dad and Todd's dad, tractor pulled together. And I've been racing with Todd for 27 years. And now my son is racing with Todd's son. So it's awesome. Really cool.
Yeah. But I guarantee you, if you put up an ad on Facebook for social media manager for your team, you'd have all kinds of people coming in for the job.
Oh, probably, but that's one of my responsibilities, so that's not
Okay.
going up. I'm not going to let that one go yet.
No. Oh,
I run our Facebook page for the
just
race team.
imagine some Instagram queenie comes up and starts, in the loafers and stuff. Oh, hi, or whatever. It is sad. It's just, well, you know what it is? It's when you said it's Monday through Friday, and then Saturday nights at the track working on the cars, and like, oh, I got to work 6 days a week. Like, I think everybody I know has worked 6 days a week, if not 7 at times. That's just, I did retail lawn and garden for 32 years. So I did the 60, 70-hour weeks. I did weekends. I did nights. Be on the road, going to trade shows. There was one time I was away from my family for 2 weeks, and I literally went from Baltimore for 4 or 5 days. Then I went out to, actually, no, it was Salt Lake City for 5 days. Come back to Baltimore for 4 days for a show, and then Las Vegas for 3 days for a show. You're on salary. You don't get paid for that time. You're out there at the shows and you're working. So it's hard. But yet you'll see these guys that'll spend, the ones that show up on Dr. Phil, 17 and 18-year-olds or whoever, or 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds that don't work. They want to be Instagram stars, and Dr. Phil asks them, how many hours a week you putting in? The guy says, well, I'll go downstairs and I'll make a couple videos a day, and, and the fact is anybody that's making any money doing that is putting in 90 hours a week, and most of them are making just a few $100 a week, if not a month, doing it. And if you look at people that are successful in racing, it's 80, 90 hours a week. Anybody in business, it's 80, 90 hours a week until you can get a crew to support you, but then you're still doing 50 to 60 hours a week.
Yeah, and so I talked about, some of the life lessons I learned from Gardner and Todd, and one of the big ones is just what you talked about was, doing what it takes so your company's successful that you work for. And one of Gardner's famous sayings is, sometimes to do what's right for yourself, you have to do what's right for the mothership.
Yeah.
If the business doesn't prosper and survive, we don't have a job, right?
That's true. Yeah.
And I guess that's one of the things that I think the younger generation struggles with. And maybe just, I may be turning into my father. My dad would always, pick on my generation. So maybe I'm just, maybe that's just the way life goes. But
it is. It definitely is, because there was a quote, and it says today's generation is lazy, they're mean, they're inconsiderate, they're impolite, they don't want to learn. And you know who said that? Plato. Or Socrates. One of those two said it. So yeah, that's what happens. But you can definitely see it. My kids are hardworking, and because they saw me work hard, and they will tell you, all three of my kids will tell you that most of their generation, they don't want to hang around with them because they're just not out there doing it. So it's not just us looking and seeing it. It's the hardworking kids that are saying the same thing. And you just read the news or watch what's on TV. It's and they just came out here in Schenectady. They did a story about depression and anxiety in junior and senior high schools is at an all-time level, and they said we need to get more counselors and psychologists, etc., to fix it. And the simple answer is, well, you stopped teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic and started legislating political correctness and social engineering instead of learning. And that's what happens, because your basic kid, before they get indoctrinated into whatever they get indoctrinated, they want to learn. You see any 5, 6, or 7-year-old, they want to learn. They're hungry, but then something happens with especially the state education department in New York and California, where all of a sudden education, teaching them doesn't mean anything. It's all about, social engineering and shoving social justice down their throats in the wrong way. Instead of teaching civics, like I learned, and how to be a good citizen, it's all this. I mean, to me, it's all this political correctness, and it's just not working. That's my opinion, unless someone else can show me otherwise.
Yeah, so my dad was a child of depression. He was born in 31.
Yeah,
And
my father
I was,
born.
you know, he was 46 when he had me.
Yeah.
And I feel blessed because I learned from that generation, him and my uncles. And then, you know, one of my first jobs working for Gardner and Todd, and they had a similar, Gardner had a similar outlook. And,
Yep.
I learned to understand that, you have to do what's right for the business to do right by yourself.
Yeah.
And listen, after I left G Stones, I was in corrections for 10 years as a correctional officer.
Mm-hmm.
I worked third shift, nights, weekends.
Oh, that's rough.
But was it the job I wanted? No, but it was a good choice at the time for supporting my family, and it was a state job, and it was very stable. Then I went to work for GE, and I moved up to the company there. And now I'm production supervisor.
Cool.
But I had just gotten the first shift at corrections, and there was an opportunity at GE, to better my pay and my benefits.
Yep.
But it meant going back to third shift. And I went back to third shift for another 7 years.
Wow.
And I listen to young people now, and they're not willing to make those sacrifices. They want first shift. They want to pick their own hours.
Yeah.
Maybe the world will adjust and everything will be fine with that attitude. I'm not sold on it.
No.
I think there's, I don't know if that's a sustainable way of doing business or life in general, but we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, hey, if they want to start their own businesses and then they can name their own hours and everything. It took me 35 years working retail before I semi-retired and could name my own hours. But what happened to me back 5.5 years ago was about when I was 54. The same thing happened to my father at 54. The place he worked just shut right down. And then he went to IBM, and IBM East Fishkill his line started shutting down there, so they needed people up in Vermont. He went up there working third shift up in Burlington for several years. This is a guy in his late 50s, early 60s. And then he eventually got back down to East Fishkill and finished up there, and he finished up on third shift. And finally one day he says, 65, I've had enough. I've put my time in. It's time to relax. And then with my company, I was there 32 years, and the two owners, one had died, the other started getting up close to 90 and started having cognitive stuff, and his two sons took over the business. And then all of a sudden, July 1st, be 6 years ago in 2016, called me in the office and they said, "You're done." I said, "You're kidding." "Nope, goodbye." So 32 years, I walked out the door. And turns out I kept in touch with people at the company, and they started getting rid of all the long-term managers that had been there forever. And I found another job 5 days later, making 20% of what I made. I could have gone on unemployment, but I didn't want to. I just got back into it, and then I started my own garden design company. Now, semi-retired, I work Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, so I have 4-day weekends every week to do iRacing. And so far, it's working out.
You're the Bill France of iRacing now. You got 3 leagues going.
Oh, man. Yeah, we just got to get some sponsors to pay for it. Speaking of sponsors, I didn't mean to get off on a political tangent there, but it just riles me up every once in a while. How important is it so you guys, your team owns a car dealership, you said?
So, yeah, when I started from the old G Stone Motors in Middlebury, Vermont, at the time it was a Ford and GM dealership.
Yeah. All right, so that's
then in 2000, around 2000, Gardner would go to Florida in the winters during the 90s.
Yeah.
And he'd come home in the spring, and, Todd was running the dealership, during the winter and stuff. And Gardner started dabbling in equipment a little bit, used equipment, like construction equipment, like bulldozers, excavators, man lifts, stuff like that. And then one day he decides he's going to start a equipment rental dealership, and G-Stone Commercial Division was born, and that is a Doosan dealership now.
Wow.
Very successful. They dropped GM, and their G-Stone Motors is just a Ford dealership, but a year and a half ago, so October of 2019, well, actually January of 2020 is when it was finalized. Todd and his wife bought the local Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram dealership. It was Foster Motors in Millbury, Vermont. And it was a family-run business. It was the father and two of his sons, and they decided that they were going to get out of the business. And Todd said, "Hey, I'm going to buy this,"
Cool.
And he did.
Yep.
So now he owns a Ford dealership and a Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram dealership.
Okay, so they're obviously very successful because when the minute you said the one guy spent the winters in Florida, so they could.
Well, he's retired. Gardner's retired.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but the point I'm getting to is they can afford to pay for race cars. It sounds like. But how important is sponsorship on your cars from outside sponsorship to keep the team going? Do they make money racing, or is it just a love affair with racing?
It's a long love affair with anything motorsports.
Yeah.
Gardner started with drag racing, tractor pulling, race cars. There's really no outside sponsorship on the cars. It's
self-funded.
Over the years, we've had some oil sponsorships through the dealerships and stuff. But they're self-financed on the race team.
Okay.
And they do everything first class.
Oh, you can tell by the picture.
If we need something, we have it.
Yeah, that picture you sent me, the garage with the 3 modifieds in it, is absolutely spotless.
Yeah, I got one from like 2008, 2009 in our old shop.
Yeah.
I think there's 5 modifieds in that picture, plus an asphalt car.
Yeah. So it costs a lot of money to run a race car, doesn't it? Even the modifieds?
Yeah, race cars are not cheap.
Yeah. So other teams
they're probably just expensive as a boat. And what's joke about a boat? Oh, it is a hole in the water you throw your money into.
Yeah, the 2 best days are when you buy a boat and when you sell it.
Yeah, and Gardner has a boat too. And if anyone would like to own a 36-foot skater super catamaran with 2 Pratt Whitney PT6 turbine engines in it that'll do 140 miles an hour, I can get you to the guy that will sell you one. He has one.
Oh man,
I've been 130 in it on Lake Champlain.
That's pretty fast. That's fast.
Yeah.
Fastest I've ever. If it
makes noise and goes fast, Gardner loves it.
Yep. Fastest I've ever gone was this spring at Watkins Glen. We went up for the 6 hours of the Glen. We were going to go anyway, so I entered WeatherTech's contest on Facebook, and we ended up getting 2 tickets to their hospitality tent, free food and booze all day long. And I won a ride in the new Supra around the track. And going down from the beginning of pit road where we got on, and down to turn 1, we're already doing 120. Then we go up through the S's, and that stretch right before the bus stop, we were doing. He said he's narrating the whole thing because I got taking movies with my phone. I'm just laughing my head off because it's so insanely crazy. Where he goes, and they're headed towards the bus stop. We're doing 146 miles an hour, and the bus stop, we're doing 80. And the G-force going into the bus stop and going from 142 miles an hour to 80 or 85 in about a second and a half was probably the most craziest thing I've ever done in a car. And there was no roll cage in the car. We did not have helmets. This was just a souped-up street version, and we're doing 147 miles an hour at Watkins Glen. It was crazy. It was so much fun. I put that video up on our Discord as soon as I got back, and it was great. I had so much fun.
Were your knuckles white from it? Grabbing it on?
Let's put it this way. My underwear was no longer white. So other teams that aren't self-funded, they've got to dig up some money somehow, probably in sponsorships. What do people ask on a decent team that's not self-funded? What would it cost to put your name on a car for a season, just for comparison?
I think it depends on the car and the driver, the race team.
Yeah.
A complete chassis for one of these cars, dirt modified, you're looking at put together, rolling out the door, probably 40,000.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
if you're looking for a big block modified engine, you're looking at another 35 to 40, maybe 50.
Wow.
Heard talk that there's some engines out there that are 60,000.
That's insane.
A good small block is 258 engine is like 25. And that's why if you go to Albany, Saratoga, Malta, Fonda, Devil's Bowl, the class that has the most cars is a 602 crate motor modified. So it's the same chassis as the other two divisions, but it's a crate motor built by GM, and they're $5,500 right from Pace, who sells them. And then you put on a couple $1,000s worth of accessories on them. Your alternator, your water pump, stuff, power steering, stuff like that, carburetor. Yeah, dirt modifieds. They're as expensive as an asphalt super late model.
That's some big bucks. So yeah, you've got to have a love of racing or deep pockets, or like you said, the sponsors. And like we were talking the other night on one of the races, how you make $1 million in racing, you start with 10 million.
Yeah, and just to get an idea, the last 2 years, how just like everything else, used. Look at your car dealerships. Used cars are insanely priced right now because supply and demand. You can't get new ones, so people are buying good used ones.
Yep.
The spring of 2020, fall of 2019, even the fall of 2020, you could buy a year or 2-year-old dirt modified chassis complete minus the motor, a good one for 10 to 12,000. This past fall, a year, 2-year-old car, good condition that you would pay 10 to 12 for a year ago, we're selling for $20,000 and $25,000, and people were paying that.
Wow, that's
because
harsh.
You can get the chassis. Bodies are a little bit different. We waited a couple months to get our bodies from when we thought we'd have them, but right now there's an issue getting parts, the bolt-ons to the chassis.
Yep.
And there's guys on Facebook, in some of the groups I'm in. I mean, they're looking for used parts because they don't know when they're going to be able to get new parts. We were in Kaiser Wheels early last summer. Kaiser Wheels had a catastrophic factory fire. The factory burned down. We couldn't get wheels last summer. Tire shortages, both asphalt and dirt. I was talking to Wayne Graham down in Florida, who kind of runs our operation down there for us. And he's like, hey, I don't know what's going to happen in speed weeks, what the tire situation is going to be. I don't know how many sets we're going to get for speed weeks. You go down there, you can buy practice tires. You have new tires every night. We're not sure that's going to be the case this year, depending on what the tire situation is. So the supply chain shortages are across the board in almost every industry.
Every industry. I had one garden design last summer. Okay, I'm a garden designer. We're talking flowers and dirt. And this one lady, she wanted red, whatever, cardinal flowers, pick a name, whatever it was. And I said, I can get you white, I can get you blue, I can get you pink, I can get you magenta. I can't get red. I don't want it planted until you can get me my red flowers. 4 months later, I finally found the red flowers because they finally it's everywhere. And there's a nursery right near me about a half hour away, and the guy's taking me around in the golf cart, and he said, well, I'm going to ask a dumb question. You already know the answer. I says, you know what all that is sitting on the ground? I said, yeah, they're liners, which basically liners are baby plants that are about 5 to 6 inches tall in little 1.5 to 2 inch pots that are about maybe 4 inches deep. And I said, yeah. I says, how many you got there? And he says, I've got 140,000 of them. This is in August. They need to be planted up by September in order to take root and get over the winter. He says, I got 140,000 sitting there. I've got to get them planted by the middle of September, October at the latest. He couldn't get soil out of Canada. He said, they got the soil, then they don't have the trucks. They've got the trucks and the soil, but no pallets to put it on. And nobody these days is going to unload by hand floor-loaded bales of soil that are 6 cubic feet that weigh 80 to 90 pounds. And finally, he got the stuff. So, yeah, it's in every industry, right down to me not getting to get red flowers. And this guy couldn't get all the ducks in a row. You had truck and pallets, but no soil, or soil and truck and no pallets. And then sometimes no drivers. And this stuff comes right out of Quebec, Canada, on the soil. So, yeah, it's everywhere. And it's crazy. Every time you turn around, it's a new story.
Yeah, I'm worried about what this year's race season will look like.
Yeah.
We went to Oswego last week here for Super Dirt Week in October, and the rumor going up to it was no tires available. And there was tires, but they were fresh out of the mold. They were, days old. But you got tires to race on, and I don't know if we're going to have them this year. So
wow,
we'll see. Hopefully,
yeah. When you
it's not
said
the case, but
when you said they were tires fresh out of the mold, it sounds like too new to race on. Do they have? Is there? I don't know anything. Again, nothing about tires. I look at it. I look at the engine. I go, okay, that looks really cool. I really don't want to know what anything is in there because I'm just not interested in it. But I like the color. I like the sound. I like how fast they go. I love the smell of racing fuel. Is there anything wrong with using fresh tires right out of the mold?
No, there's not. But usually the tires we're racing on, are usually in October. They're probably coming from July and August.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
This year they were just that close to running out.
Got it. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I know it's kind of a twist on the format, but
no, that's fine.
where do you want to see Joe Sixpack Racing League a year, 2 years from now?
I want to see Joe Sixpack racing on TV on my catamaran in the Bahamas.
all of your lug coin.
All because of lug coin.
Right?
Yeah. No. We're always looking forward. Now that we've in the admins, we started this the middle of last season. Started throwing things. Not kicking the can down the road, but throwing ideas down the road and then reeling them in. Depending on where this next-gen car goes, how well NASCAR develops it, and how well iRacing develops it, we're looking at a development league for Season 5 or Season 6, and I know I'm getting a little bored with the next gen, and some of the other drivers are, because it's just, like on the super speedways, you see what happens when you go up to you get a bunch of guys, nobody wants to go up to the high line. I'm really disappointed in that car at Pocono, because you can drive full bore all around Pocono, and the other cars, part of the fun of Pocono was all three turns were so different you couldn't approach them the same. So it all depends what happens with the next gen car. I'm glad we upped the I rating this year to 2,500 from 2. It's made to me a huge difference in the quality of the racing. And doing that, I was worried that we were going to, for lack of a better term, price some of the other lower I rating drivers out of it. But our strength of field, even though with all these 2K drivers in now, we're 5 or 6 that we brought in, our strength of field last year when we were running was 1150 to 1200, and now it's 1350, and I think last night was 12 something. So it hasn't driven the strength of field up. So where I see it going is at some point getting up into like 3 to 3500 for the Premier Series, and then having a development league back to with a max of 2000. And which car that is depends on which way the next gen goes. If next gen stays as it is, that will be our development league car, and we'll look for something a little more challenging to drive, and raise the I rating and come up with some type of system where you could start in the development league or stay there if you want, and once your I rating gets a certain point, then you go up to the next one. Formula V is a little slow getting started. We've got 15 drivers in the league. We're averaging about 9 over the first 2 races, which I can't figure out because the Formula V lobbies on iRacing are always packed 300 to 500 drivers on a Saturday morning and sometimes on the weekend nights. So maybe it's a little more promotion. Maybe it's too easy a car to drive. It's fun as heck, but maybe for some better drivers, they want something a little more, challenging or faster in an open wheel. So we'll see what happens there. We're looking at putting together a Joe Sixpack racing team, which we're going to talk about tomorrow night. I come up with a format of looking for like 4 quote-unquote full-time drivers and then maybe 2 part-time, or just take 6 and rotate them out, coming up and entering money races, charity events, etc. like that, and how it's going to be the entry fees funded, and if it's going to be something where I'll pay the entry fee and we split the winnings. A couple of the admins said we'll just donate all our winnings back to the league, etc. So that's where I see it, and maybe some sponsors not coming in with cash, but maybe some stuff to give away. So that's where I see it going. But right now, it all depends on the pivot point is what happens with next gen this season, and maybe season 5, and then we take the summer off. So season 6 coming at Labor Day, we'll have a much better position on where we're going with either a new Premier League or a development league. So that's where it stands right now.
Yeah, they got tweaked the next gen car because
yeah,
I don't understand how you can run the tunnel turn at Pocono wide open.
Oh, it's crazy.
You can't run Homestead wide open.
Right.
Yep. To me, that makes zero sense.
Right. Because that was, like I said, that was the fun of Pocono. It's 3 turns, and they're so diabolically different in how you approach. Turn 2 is a late apex. Turn 1 is, a pretty tight apex, and turn 3, it's almost like there's no apex. You just gotta ride through it and don't accelerate or take your lift a little bit and don't push the gas too fast, and then you get in it with the next gen and it's wide open all the way around, and it's kind of no fun.
Yeah, I agree. And if anyone from iRacing is listening to this, I have 2 requests. Fix the tunnel turn at Pocono, the next gen car. And the other thing is, I don't know if it's just me, my field of view or what, but when we raced at Las Vegas, I feel like I'm listening to one of my father's stories about going uphill both ways to school when he was a kid. Because to me, the view of Las Vegas track is, it feels like I'm racing uphill on the front stretch and the back stretch. I don't know if anyone else feels that, but I've said that right along.
I noticed something like that at Kentucky. When you're coming out of turn 4, it almost feels like you're going down a grade. It's downhill a little bit. It's kind of cool. I don't know if Kentucky's built that way, but that's the feel I get when I'm racing that one.
Yeah, I just don't know how you can go uphill both ways, But hey, maybe all those years my dad told me that.
Well,
there's something to it.
Some guy did a cartoon drawing, and he tilted the perspective of the drawing a little bit so you can actually do walk uphill both ways to and from school. It's just that when you're doing it, when you're going to school, you're walking in the front door, and when you're walking home uphill, you go out the back door on the lower floor of the school, kind of like some of the malls that are built into hills. So yeah, it can be done, but it is tricky. So yeah, that's where we're headed with Joe Sixpack Racing, and the admin team has been great. It's John, myself, Dave, and Al over there in Ireland, and they asked me the same question at the end of season 3. Where do you see us in a couple of years? So I'm like, I gotta come up with an answer fast. So right now it's all pivoting on the next gen car. If it stays too easy to drive, that's going to be the development league, because it's pretty funny that the next gen car it's the premium car, but yet I went down and I was racing ARCA this week at Michigan, and it's a lot more fun to drive because it's hard to drive. Those ARCA cars are not easy to drive, especially in the turns. And I kind of equate driving the ARCA car to the first time you took your grandfather's Buick Electra 225, with the 8 cylinders and 4 doors and big fins on the back out on the road for the first time, compared to whatever little car you were driving growing up. So, I mean, they're fun. They're fun cars to drive. It feels more like a real car, more like a street car.
Yeah, but when you said ARCA, I got PTSD flashbacks because my I rating is a direct result of me not being able to stay out of ARCA.
Yeah.
Um, I love the plate racing of the ARCA cars.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend that sometimes I stream my races on Facebook, and every time he sees them in ARCA, he comments, "You're gonna die again." And 9 times out of 10, he's right, and it's
Yep.
from behind.
Yeah.
You know,
Actually,
7 out of those 9 times, it's not my fault.
right. Actually, this
2 of them
week,
probably is. And
this week,
I need to stay out of ARCA.
yeah.
But I enjoy it. And the other one I should probably stay out of is the Wheel of Modified Tour cars.
Mm-hmm.
But, Lamag and I have talked. We both love those cars. They're a blast to drive.
They are fun.
And Bristol last week was really fun with them.
Yeah.
But, yeah, my New Year's resolution was no more ARCA. And so far, I'm 17 days in, and I've stuck with it. So.
Oh, you haven't raced ARCA yet this year?
No.
Oh, okay.
So
Plenty of time to break that resolution. Actually, this week at Michigan, I raced it once, and you get in there and it's like, we're used to Joe six-pack racing, 3 sets of tires, 2 quick changes and quick fixes like that. You get no extra sets of tires and you get 1 quick fix, but it was a 40. It was in the fixed set series. It was 40 laps, clean racing, 0 cautions, and I was like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, there's no cautions in the ARCA series, the D series.
Oh, there isn't. Oh, okay. I thought there was.
Yeah, so rookie and D, there's no cautions.
Got it. Okay.
Once you get to the trucks, there is.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the Xfinity cars at Michigan. They race unbelievable.
Those are fun too. Yeah, but even that's right. Rookie and D, there's no cautions, but I didn't see any wrecks. There was maybe 1 or 2 cars that spun out, so there was no big pileups like you see in Pickup Cup and Carburetor Cup, which are just disasters.
Yes, they are.
Oh, well, I said, Rob, this has been a great conversation. We covered a lot of ground here, and when are you headed down to Florida?
We fly down February 11th.
Okay.
So we're arrived at Friday of Speed Week start. We're not going to race Friday night with the super late model. Just with things we had going on and stuff, didn't work out for our schedule.
Yeah.
But we'll be racing Saturday night, kicking off our season there. So
super.
It'll be fun.
Yeah. Why don't you keep me filled in, and when it slows up a little bit, and you maybe jump back on and let me know how your team is doing down in Florida, and then when you get back up here for the summer race season, and so are you not racing at Malta this year?
We're not. We're going to race at the Mohawk for 358s.
Ah, okay. And you'll be at Devil's Bowl.
We'll be at Devil's Bowl on Saturday nights.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll make
this Saturday night we have the banquet of champions for Devil's Bowl, and they're actually having it down in Saratoga Springs. So we got that this weekend to celebrate 2021, and
cool.
That rolls us into 2022.
Yeah, well, if maybe we'll definitely try to get up to the Devil's Bowl and then maybe shake hands and say hi.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to thank my 2 sponsors on my
go ahead.
My Joe Six-Pack Racing League car, G-Stone Motors Ford dealership and Stone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, both Millbury, Vermont. They, like I said, a huge part of my life, and I just wanted to thank them for all they've done.
Cool. Oh, you say Middlebury?
Yes.
There's a place where the place I used to work for, we bought soil from. There's a big composting facility right up there where they make, what the heck is the brand name? It's not Jolly Cow. It's something like that. I think they're still there. It's Foster Brothers Farm. And they do.
Absolutely. So
yes. Yep.
Foster Brothers Farm is about 250 300 yards from our race shop.
Oh, no kidding. We were up there several years ago because they Yeah, that was one of the perks in my business. A composting, potting soil, cow manure farm put us up at the Middlebury Inn for a weekend. We brought the family up and we did it. Moo Doo and Moo Dirt. Really, really good stuff if you're into gardening. So, go to Foster Brothers and get your Moo Doo and Moo Dirt. And they've got some, the composting facility, that's right up my alley. And my wife is like, ew, this is gross. What is it? I go, well, it's waste, it's manure, it's horse manure, it's cow manure. And I loved it. She was like, let's go back to the hotel. Well, Bob.
Now, did you,
go ahead.
Now, Middlebury's famous for one other thing.
The college.
Their A&W drive-up restaurant.
Oh.
Did you hit that while you're in town?
No, I didn't know it was there. I know Middlebury College is there.
Yeah, they have one of the few actual 50, 60 vintage A&W drive-up restaurants.
No kidding.
So they serve you in your vehicles, yeah. And that's only probably a quarter mile from Foster Brothers. So I don't know if maybe you drove by it on Route 7. But yeah,
we probably
people come from all around to go there.
Wow. That's cool. Well, Bob, I want to thank you for stopping by and being on the show here tonight. Another great conversation. I'm glad I got rid of the 15-minute segments that we started with back in November, because we just blew through 6 15-minute segments right here. Another hour plus talk about racing.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having me.
Hey, you're more than welcome. Well, good luck this coming week in the Joe Six-Pack. I don't know if you're going to be in the Truck Series tomorrow night, but that's going to be at Kansas. Looking forward to that. And then we go to an admin meeting tomorrow night. Thursday night is the Formula V at Pocono East. And Sunday, I think, Cup Series is at Atlanta. There's a track that'll chew up some tires.
Yes, it is. It burns them up in the trucks there, and will burn them up the Cup cars. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'll be in the trucks tomorrow night.
Cool. Okay, we'll see you then. Have yourself a good night, and once again, thanks for stopping by and being on the show.
Thanks, Greg. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye. Rob Lowell, veteran Joe Six-Pack racing driver. He's been with us since season 1, but he takes some time off to go real racing, and can't blame anybody for doing that. And he's a mechanic with the G-Stone Racing Team. And once again, another story of starting out young, watching races, hearing those race cars while you're trying to go to sleep on a Sunday night. Dad, what's that? You got to take me to the track. And then scraping the mud off the tires and getting the wheels. And before you know it, you're on a team and you're part of the team. And you're not only changing tires, you're being a mechanic. Rob Lowell, thank you very much for being with us tonight. And what we were talking about a little earlier was it's Lug Coin. That's the crypto coin of Joe Six-Pack Racing. You can't buy it. It's only for people in the league. And it's not even mandatory. It's 100% voluntary. And it's like a charter. You can buy $10. You can buy $50 worth. And then it goes, you send in it. When you leave the league, you can sell your charter back and split the profits with the league. So a little bit of fun stuff that we do here at Joe Six-Pack Racing. We also have the Joe Six-Pack Racing merch shop. We got all the Christmas stuff out of here. We're not putting any hearts in for Valentine's Day. This is solid racing season now. This past weekend, you could have used that Arctic Fleece blanket right there and go out today in your hoodie, the Joe Six-Pack logo on it, and shovel. We got them for 2 of our series. Same thing you're seeing here, but our Truck Series, Cup Series, and also 140 items with the Joe Six-Pack podcast logo on it. So 500 items up there in the Joe Six-Pack Racing merch shop, and you can find it at cafepress.com/Joe Six-Pack Racing League. And $5 from every purchase goes to offset our $1 million budget. No, it's a couple $100 a month, but hey, every $5 counts when it's coming out of your own pocket. That's the Joe Six-Pack Racing League merch shop at cafepress.com. Coming up Wednesday night, 7 p.m., right here on the Joe Six-Pack podcast, Justin Clapper and Bo Condon talking about the 24 Beers of Daytona coming up the end of January, the big iRacing event they're putting together. And basically, the way it works, it's 24 hours and 24 beers. You got a 2-man team. You got to drink 288 ounces of beer during the race between the 2 of you. And if you want to collect prize money at the end, if you get into the prize money you've got to take pictures of those cans of beer to prove that you drank that much beer. Justin Clapper also signed on to be a tire changer in the pit crew for Zane Smith Racing this year in the Truck Series. So we're going to have a NASCAR pit crew member on Wednesday night. They missed us last week because Justin was having the flu and he got the time mixed up, but he's going to be on, and it should be a really, really good conversation with Justin Clapper and Bo Condon on the 24 Beers of Daytona. That's the end of another exciting Joe Six-Pack podcast, and as always, thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the track. Good night.